So before I even begin to do any other kind of planning stuff around my book, I want to think about what is the format that I want to write in. And the reason that I'm doing that is because when I know the format, when I come to plan it all out, I know where I want to put things and why. So, and obviously you can change your mind. So this is a self-help book. It's called Writing to Heal, and it's very practical. Yes, there's a process, there's different things that you can do, but in this book, there are no personal stories. But what is interesting about this, for people who want to start writing a book but don't want to share their story and may want to share their story later on, you can start with the really practical stuff and then later on come back and either add your story to the original book if it works, or write another book with some practical stuff in. So that's kind of one way to do it. Now, this book, Rebirth, this is a multi-author book. So I worked with a number of people who wanted to write a story and also write some self-help. And they didn't want to write a full book. So this was a much, much easier way to do it. But the way this book works is every author writes a chapter of memoir, and then they write a chapter of self-help. So that's a really, really nice way to share the story and then share your wisdom around the story. So if you've got something that you want to write and you don't want to write a continuous this happened, this happened, this happened, then this kind of style could suit you. So it's a chapter of memoir and a chapter of self-help. Right. So what have I decided to do? So right. So where do I start? I have written a third Writing to Heal book. So I've written a second one as well. And they both need editing, but the third one contains a process that I quite like. And it may or may not fit what I'm going to do, but it might. So I'm holding that in reserve, and that will be a book like it'll be a book like that. So it could work as a support to the book that I'm writing. So the book that I'm writing, what I've chosen to do is I'm kind of looking at it from the kind of style of the Rebirth book. So what I want to do is I want to have a chapter that has both the memoir and then some self-help. But in my writing, I am going to ask questions so that the reader can read what I've written and then ponder on a question I ask. But I'm not going to just like put a blatant question. I'm going to frame it in a slightly different way. And what I want to do is that every chapter is a story in its own right, but I may refer to that story later on. And the idea is that I take you on a journey through each of these stories, but the self-help is a process. Now, I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to plan the book out. I need to think about what are the stories I want to tell and why do they fit this book and why would the reader want to read them? But because I'm a teacher, I'm a guide, I want to share with the reader this self-help process. So I'm obviously not going to tell you what my book is about yet, because I need to really, really go into the depths of it. But I just wanted to share that about the structure of the book because it helps me in the planning process. And I know it helps a lot of people that I work with because when we think about, well, what is that framework of the book? We don't know the framework yet, but I know that I'm going to write, each chapter's going to have a story, then it's going to have some self-help. The self-help follows a process, and each of the stories, there's a story in its own right, which I may refer back to or forward to as I'm going through it. Now, I don't want to write a story that says, I woke up, this happened, and this happened. I absolutely know in my heart of hearts that each chapter needs to have a complete story. I also know that in writing each of those stories, it has a theme and it has a message. And each of the stories will move the reader on in a particular way. So what you may find is as you're sitting here going, yeah, right, okay, so I get that. It could be just a pure self-help. It could be a chapter of memoir, a chapter of self-help. I could write a complete memoir, I woke up, this happened, this happened. I could do the structure that Dale is talking about. I just invite you in this moment to think about how you would enjoy sharing and how you think your perfect reader would enjoy consuming your book and what you want them to get out of it. So that's it. Have a think about the structure of the book because it'll help you in the planning process once you've got the chaos of what is it I'm going to share and how do I want to share it and what is best for my reader. Just just play with it, mull around with it, go and look at some books on your bookshelf and see what works for you. I know it works for me. As a reader, I love the kind of book that I'm going to write. So that's what I'm going to do.